He was a military genius, a statesman, a reformer, and a conqueror. He rose to prominence during the French Revolution and went on to become the Emperor of France, dominating Europe in the early 19th century. But who was this man who shaped the history of France and Europe? In this video, we'll take a closer look at the life and legacy of Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the most fascinating figures in world history. Early life and rise to power. Napoleon Bonaparte was born on the island of Corsica in 1769, the second of 8 children. His parents were minor nobles, and he was educated in France, where he showed a talent for mathematics and military strategy. After graduating from military school, he became a second lieutenant in the French army. During the French Revolution, Napoleon rose to prominence as a military commander and helped to suppress a rebellion in Paris. He later became the commander of the French army in Italy, where he won several decisive victories against the Austrians and gained a reputation as a brilliant military strategist. Conquests and empire. After returning to France, Napoleon was appointed as first consul, and then declared himself emperor in 1804. He went on to conquer much of Europe, including Spain, Italy, and Austria, and established a vast empire. However, his attempts to conquer Russia and the rest of Europe ultimately failed, and he was exiled to the island of Elba in 1814. He briefly returned to power the following year, but was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo and exiled again, this time to the island of St. Helena, where he died in 1821. Military genius. Napoleon is widely regarded as one of the greatest military commanders in history. His military campaigns were often characterized by lightning-fast maneuvers and surprise attacks, earning him the nickname the Little Corporal. He is also credited with introducing new tactics and innovations, such as the use of artillery and the division of armies into corps. Reforms and legacy. Napoleon is also remembered for his reforms and contributions to French society. The Napoleonic Code, which he introduced in 1804, established the principles of equality before the law, the right to a fair trial, and the protection of property rights. It was a major influence on legal systems around the world. He also established a system of public education, reformed the French economy, and promoted religious tolerance. However, Napoleon's legacy is also controversial, with many critics pointing to his authoritarian rule, his wars of conquest, and his role in the deaths of millions of people. Despite this, he remains one of the most influential figures in world history, and his impact on France and Europe can still be felt today. Interesting fact. Fact number 1. Napoleon was not actually French, but was born on the island of Corsica, which was under French control at the time. Fact 2. Napoleon was known for his short stature, but he was actually of average height for his time, about 5 feet 7 inches, or 170 centimeters. Fact 3. Napoleon's coronation as emperor was held in Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, and he famously crowned himself rather than allowing the Pope to do it. Fact 4. Napoleon's empire was the largest in Europe since the Roman Empire, and he is considered one of the greatest conquerors in history. Fact 5. Napoleon had a complex relationship with the arts, sponsoring some of the greatest works of French literature, music, and painting, but also censoring and suppressing works that he deemed offensive or subversive. Fact 6. Napoleon was married twice. His first wife, Josephine, was a socialite and former mistress who he divorced because she was unable to bear him an heir. His second wife, Marie-Louise, was the daughter of the Austrian emperor, and he married her in an attempt to secure a peace treaty with Austria. Fact 7. Many of the military tactics and strategies that Napoleon pioneered are still studied and used by military commanders today. The Battle of Austerlitz. The Battle of Austerlitz, which took place on December 2, 1805, is considered one of Napoleon's greatest victories, in which he defeated a larger, combined army of Russian and Austrian forces. The battle took place near the town of Austerlitz in Moravia, which is now part of the modern-day Czech Republic. The French army was significantly outnumbered, with around 73,000 troops compared to the combined army's 85,000 troops. Despite being outnumbered, Napoleon used his superior military tactics and strategy to gain the upper hand in the battle. He famously feigned a retreat, luring the Russian and Austrian troops into a trap where they were surrounded and attacked from multiple directions. The French army also made use of its superior artillery and cavalry to devastating effect, causing heavy casualties on the Russian and Austrian side. The Battle of Austerlitz was a resounding victory for the French, with over 27,000 Russian and Austrian troops killed or wounded compared to around 9,000 French casualties. The victory solidified Napoleon's position as a military genius and expanded the territory of the French Empire. Interesting fact, Napoleon was so impressed with the battlefield that he ordered a victory column to be built at the site of the battle. The column, which is now known as the Column of the Grande Armée, still stands in Austerlitz today and is a popular tourist attraction. The invasion of Russia. But, despite his reputation as a military genius, Napoleon suffered some crushing defeats, such as his disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812, which resulted in the deaths of over 500,000 of his soldiers. The invasion of Russia was a response to the decision by Tsar Alexander I to withdraw from the Continental System, which was a trade embargo that Napoleon had imposed on Britain. This move threatened to undermine Napoleon's economic and military power, and he decided to invade Russia to force the Tsar to comply. Napoleon led a massive army of over 600,000 troops into Russia, expecting a quick and decisive victory. However, the campaign quickly turned into a disaster. The Russian army employed a scorched earth policy, burning crops and villages and denying the French army the resources they needed to sustain themselves. As winter approached, the Russian army engaged in a series of hit-and-run tactics that wore down the French forces. By the time the French army reached Moscow, they were already weakened and demoralized. To make matters worse, the city was largely empty, and the few remaining residents had set fire to much of the city, leaving the French with few supplies and nowhere to shelter. With winter fast approaching, Napoleon decided to retreat from Russia, but the retreat was a disaster. The Russian army launched a series of attacks that inflicted heavy casualties on the French, and the harsh winter weather and lack of supplies led to many more deaths. Napoleon Bonaparte's invasion of Russia in 1812 was a disaster that had far-reaching consequences for the French Empire and for European history. The campaign resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of soldiers, weakened Napoleon's power and prestige, and emboldened his enemies. Despite his reputation as a military genius, the invasion of Russia demonstrated that even the most brilliant commanders can make catastrophic mistakes. Conclusion. Napoleon Bonaparte was a complex and multifaceted figure who left an indelible mark on the history of France and Europe. He was a brilliant military commander, a reformer, and a statesman, but also a conqueror who waged wars that led to the deaths of millions of people. His legacy is still the subject of debate and controversy, but his impact on world history cannot be denied. We hope you enjoyed this journey through history, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.